Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us remotely, we have Scott Kessler. He's a Global Sector Lead for TMT over at Third Bridge. We're going to take a look at technology companies modeling in the coronavirus impact. Scott, it's great to have you with us. Thanks so much for joining. And I think, an unexpected consequence of the coronavirus has been the impact on the technology sector and how it's really keeping us going throughout what's going to be a longer-term economic downturn.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jill. I think that's a fair point. It seems like a lot of other areas of the economy and of the broader kind of market in general are frankly more in the spotlight to some extent, perhaps because of some of the near-term negative impacts resulting from the coronavirus. But I don't think there's any question that we have seen some, let's say, positives related to TMT in particular, given that everyone seems to be at home working, learning, and consuming more entertainment content.
Yeah, that's for sure, particularly over services that we're using right now, like Zoom. And it's not even just for the workplace. I can't tell you how many people have come together, whether it's a happy hour, catching up with your family, or just catching up in general, that they're starting to use these workplace applications on the personal level as well.
Yeah, no, I think that that's true. And I think that's a sign of, what the world's going to be like, not just for the next couple of weeks or months, but perhaps for years to come. I think one of the facts that is really important to keep in mind here is that Zoom for a lot of people was largely unknown a month ago or so. And I think over the last couple of weeks, people have come to realize that Zoom provides now a free solution to many people that enables communication and video conferencing in a way that perhaps other companies and offerings aren't really able to deliver at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Last night I was talking to my mom and I had to text her. I'm like, look, I'm still on a Zoom with my friends. And she's like, oh, no problem. Like they even understand, people who are, been out of the workforce for a number of years, like what a Zoom is or what these online applications are. Let's talk about some of the risks to construction-related software. There are some areas of technology that perhaps will take a hit from some of the slowdown that we're seeing. What are some of the risks that you're looking at?
Yeah, part of what we do at Third Bridge is we talk to industry experts on behalf of, our investor and consulting clients to get a better understanding as to what's going on or what will go on in the world. And we've spoken with I think around 150 experts focused on the coronavirus and the implications. And one of the things that we've discerned is that there are some construction-related software companies that perhaps understandably are going to be vulnerable given the likelihood of an economic slowdown and perhaps even a recession around the world. So a company like Autodesk, a really great company in a lot of ways, we think, but one that is vulnerable to some of these economic shocks. In addition, people may be familiar with a company called Procore. They actually filed to come public at the end of February, so roughly a month ago, and they're a leader in construction management software. They actually do a lot of different things for construction companies to bring them to the digital world that we're living in. However, based on conversations that we've had, it seems like a lot of the revenues that they generate or will be generating are driven by construction volumes generated by their clients. And so with ample construction activity, that could prove a risk for that particular company. I'd point out, by the way, that I haven't seen any indications that the IPO is kind of set for a certain date or even a time frame at this juncture, but it's something to be mindful of.
All right, let's talk about the big TMT names, your Apple, the Microsoft, the FANG stocks, if you will. They were pretty front and center and negatively pre-announced pretty early in this process with Apple closing its retail stores. Microsoft highlighted a number of supply chain issues. Do you think in the long run that could be positive for them for tackling these issues front and center?
Yeah, when you think about Apple and Microsoft, I think the thing that comes to mind is that because so much of what they're able to do originates from Asia, and Asia obviously was where this coronavirus started in China. And so we saw kind of supply chain disruptions impacting Apple and impacting Microsoft more indirectly because, of course, they're in some of their businesses still pretty reliant on PCs. And without kind of PCs being produced or assembled, you're going to have a problem with selling licenses or even on-demand offerings related to computers. So they were kind of, early indicators of, some challenges. It seems like even with Asia coming back online slowly, these companies have, had some puts and takes. You referenced Apple, they closed their retail stores. Microsoft, I think to some extent, sure, they're dealing with some of the issues related to computer and laptop volumes. But on the other hand, both of these companies, I think, are being relied upon even more so than they were before in certain respects. So you mentioned Zoom kind of conferences with friends or getting text messages. Obviously, Apple is a big player in not only iMessage, but FaceTime as well. And I think people are discovering that you can actually conduct a FaceTime with multiple people suddenly. So I think things like that, Microsoft obviously with Skype and Skype for Business transitioning to Teams, I think you're looking at a number of different people using those tools as well. And then in addition, you look at a company like Alphabet, which obviously owns Google. On one hand, indications are that perhaps there's not as much advertising revenue to be had when you see major categories being so adversely impacted. I'm thinking about travel and leisure and luxury in particular. But then you see some of their cloud offerings where you have Google offering G Meet and parts of the G Suite that enable communication and collaboration. And so, I think these companies are so big that you're seeing parts of them understandably being hurt by reduced economic activity and purchases. But then you see benefits as people are, increasingly using or even discovering tools that are enabling them to continue to work, continue to learn, and communicate with friends and family.
All right, Scott, thanks so much for the insight. Stay safe out there, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Jill.
All right, and thank you for joining me on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.